Hello, everyone. I hope that everything is set up just fine. Olivier's here to join as well, but I'll get started here in a second. Just moving some things around on my desk. I do see I am live on YouTube. That's great. I think I'm live on LinkedIn. Let me check. Oh, I see a heart on LinkedIn. So that means I am live. And I'm also assuming that everyone can hear me. So if at any point you cannot hear anything, do let me know. And you know what? We should just go ahead and get started. So, hi everyone. My name is April Gittens. And if I don't know you, you don't know me, well, welcome. You are definitely welcome here. For some context, Olivier, the people are here to see me, not you. They're still here to see me, not you. Okay, so for context, I create technical content. I've been doing it for years. I would say since 2018, and a lot has changed for certain in terms of how I approach content creation, what my setup entails, all the different tools I use, the programs I use for editing. So with that said, I have compiled a lot into this one stream. I don't know how long we're going to go. We might go for an hour, might go for a little over an hour. We'll see how things shape up. But in any case, if you see me shifting around a lot, that is because I am monitoring chats across YouTube and LinkedIn, since I am streaming this from my YouTube channel as well, and then LinkedIn if you're on there. But in any case, this stream is dedicated to my content creation workflow. Technical content. If you're not sure what that is, technical content, it's still content, but it's technical content. So that ranges across doing coding related tutorials. It could be low code tutorials. More lately, I've been doing things with electronics, for example. So it has a lot of similarity to what you would typically see on social media when it comes to content creators. It's just that it's very much focused on technical content. So there are things that I'll be going over in my own workflow that's going to be relevant for any creators out there that create tech content. So for example, we'll get into some best practices around screen recording or working with code and things of that nature as well. So I had myself a little agenda. Let me pull that up real quick to make sure I don't forget anything for y'all. If at any point anyone has any questions, do please put them in one of the chats. I'm sure I will be able to find it and come across it. But in any case, we're going to kick things off with, all right, planning an idea. Oh, someone just said on Ring that we have an earthquake. I'm in California, by the way, so would not be surprised if we just had an earthquake at 9 a.m. So in any case, planning what it is that you're going to actually record. There's a lot to be said about this part of the process because it really sets you up for everything that's to come. So today we're going to be looking at the process I went through for how I recorded a recent video that I did. Maybe I can pull it up for you so you can see. I recently got into using the GitHub Copilot CLI hooks, and that particular video is part code, part electronics. Actually, it's a really good blend of how you can combine the two together when you're doing content. But let me get that post in particular for you all so you can see what I'm referring to. And let me head on over to that particular screen. Okay, so if you happen to be on LinkedIn, it's the post that I have here about, did you know you can connect GitHub Copilot to the physical world? This video that's playing is what we're going to be looking at today in terms of how that can come together. And so, yeah, do check that out if you happen to be connected with me on LinkedIn. But in any case, back to just the overall concept of figuring out what your idea is, because that really does set up everything that's to come as you're creating whatever it is that you that you want to film about. So for me, the topic being GitHub Copilot CLI hooks, what I wanted to do was show how you can use the hooks and how you can connect it to a Raspberry Pi Pico 2W and also an LED and make the LED glow. Now, when someone on YouTube said, "I love your videos, so creative." Thank you so much. I appreciate it. When it comes to figuring out the focus of the video, you have to decide, are you doing an educational video? Are you doing a video that's just to show something that you made? And I'm sure there's many other use cases or ways you can approach this. The reason this matters particularly, though, is because that's going to help decide what stays and what goes, or what gets recorded and what you can leave out. You don't want to find yourself in a situation where you're recording everything, because that eats up a lot of your time, and no one likes wasted time, of course. So you want to get an idea of, okay, is this video to educate, or is it to entertain? Or is it to inspire? If you were to put it in 3 buckets, educate, entertain, or inspire, that's how I would look at it. So I like to do mostly educational videos that will take you through or explain how to do something. However, I sometimes also like to just show off things that I make as well. With that said, if I'm doing a look at what I made video, I'm not going to make it a tutorial style format, because that's not the point of it. I'm really there to show what I have. If it's more of an inspirational video, I'm not going to add a tutorial to it either, because it's here to inspire. So as you are figuring out the planning process of whatever it is that you're recording a video on, is it to entertain, is it to educate, or is it to inspire? So keep that in mind. This particular video that I am doing is an educate, and it's technically an educate and to, pretty much show what I've done, or inspire, if you will. So I would say educate and inspire. You can blend those 3 categories however way makes sense, but you also want to make sure that you're careful as to what's dominating the video as well. So for this one in particular, I wanted to educate and show you, like, this is the process that you would follow, but it's not necessarily a step-by-step process video where it's like, all right, first let's connect the Raspberry Pi. Like, that's not necessarily the focus. It's very high level video. Not to mention, the video is only like 2 minutes or so long. So as you're planning out your videos, you want to get an idea of how long is this video actually going to be. Is it going to be a 30-second video? Is it going to be a 2-minute video? Is it a 5-minute video? Is it a 10-minute video? And nothing's wrong with any of those timing formats, if you will. But I will say, depending on where you're posting the video, that can make or break whether people are actually going to sit and watch the whole video. And it can hurt when you go to look at the analytics to see that a 5-minute video, people checked out at like 37 seconds. But it's okay, because I like to just keep my own viewing, the way I view content in mind, so I don't feel as bad when I do that in my analytics, because I'm sorry, but you have to get this through your head now. Everyone's not going to watch your 5-minute video. That's just a reality. But you will have some people who do. But the sooner you can get over the fact that not everyone's going to sit through and watch everything end to end, then you'll feel better when you go to look at analytics. I like to keep LinkedIn videos no longer than 3 minutes. I do have some that sneak through the cracks and they end up being like 5-minute videos. But the reason why I like to do more of the shorter form on LinkedIn is, to me, I just feel like if I'm sitting on LinkedIn watching a video, I'm only there for a short time, not a long time. If I want a long time video, I'm going to go to YouTube. But those are my own ways that I consume content. And you might be different, which is fine, but just keeping in mind, everybody views content different. So I like to keep the LinkedIn videos more short form. Same for Instagram Reels. I like to keep those no longer than 3 minutes. The reason why is because on Instagram, and for context, I do content on my Pretty Wired Builds Instagram account. I don't know if I can, I think I should be able to show you on here. Let me go to that. All right, so I'm gonna pull that up for you right now. So this is my Instagram. I do short form videos on here, only no longer than 3 minutes. The reason being is because of the way Instagram works. Anything that's over 3 minutes, they're only going to show it to your existing followers. However, anything under 3 minutes, Instagram will push it out to everyone. Which for me, I'm in a growth phase, so I want that. I want it to go out to as many people as possible. So I stay under that 3 minute mark. And Instagram is serious about that too. But if you want to do more long form videos and you're just like, forget the rules, I don't care, do you. You can definitely make your videos however long or short that you want. I think the hardest videos for me to personally make happens to be the 30-second videos because you really have to like get in there, say what you want to say, and be done. Because those sort of videos, you can only have so much information in there. People will mention things about like hooks and making sure that you have sufficient interest to like engage and entice people to keep watching in the beginning. And that's a very real thing. If you are the type of person that sits on social media and scrolls through everything that comes your way, you're really only stopping and spending time on something that's going to grab your attention. I will tell you this, if you open up a video and it's just like, today we're going to learn about Copilot, that's not capturing some attention, just going to be real there. So with that said, the shorter the video, yes, you want to have a really good hook and you want to be able to pack in a lot of things, which means you're going to cut a lot from it too. I like to think of short form videos being anything 3 minutes and shorter. Long form videos are going to be, once you hit that 4 minute mark and longer. Now, some creators will create like full-blown 30-minute videos. Those are for YouTube. I will definitely recommend putting them on YouTube because most likely if you have a YouTube video that's 30 minutes long, you're probably either sharing how to do something or you're doing like a conversation with someone, and those things are going to be better surfaced on YouTube, like just to like be upfront. People are probably going to find it better on there because they're searching for those terms. And then two, YouTube is also one of those things, I'm not sure if you looked at stats more lately in terms of how people are consuming content, but YouTube at this moment, there are a lot of people that view YouTube actually on their TV as opposed to their phones. So if you're doing something that's much longer form, like if you're doing any sort of like tech related like podcasts, for example, throw those on YouTube, keep them there. I mean, if you want to like have cross exposure where those are, sure, put it on LinkedIn, but YouTube is going to be your best bet. Also, people like me who like to follow a tutorial and then do it in my actual like space. I have a TV in my office that I actually look at all the YouTube videos from because I just need the bigger screen. So you just want to make sure that you're putting content where it belongs. And depending on how long your video is, whether it's to educate, entertain, or inspire, that is what leads into the planning process. Now, in addition to that, for the planning process, when I do my videos, I either have a script that I am more or less following, or I am reading off certain like key points I really wanted to touch upon in the actual video itself. So with that said, I've changed things a little bit over the years. I used to do like full-blown script, and then I would try to say as much of that script as possible. And then more recently, I've just been making like a list of the topics I want to cover, and then just right off the cuff, that's when I record. Nothing's wrong with either or. Some people actually will have a teleprompter in front of them, and I've done teleprompter work only once, and that was more recent when I had recorded something for my job. I'm not a teleprompter girl. I'm just not, because I feel like I'm so focused on reading the screen, and the second I stumble over something, it just messes me up completely. So my way of doing anything with scripts might be a little bit unhinged, but I literally look at the script, like whatever the sequence, the things I need to say, and then I go right into recording it. And somehow I'm able to keep that upstairs in my head, but that's how I do anything with scripts. Anything without scripts though, it's fair game. And I will say from experience, that tends to sometimes have more takes than I would like. And that's just reality, because maybe I didn't like the way I said something. I tend to like to script things if I feel like there are very key points that has to be made that I don't want to forget. So we're going to actually look at the script. that I did put together for the GitHub Copilot CLI hooks video. This one was scripted in particular because there were so many moving pieces that I went through to, I'm preparing the screen for you all, that I went through to pull this video together. So I had to script it, but when I went to record it, I didn't necessarily record it verbatim. So right now what I have on the screen is the script itself. Writing the scripts, I actually do my script writing when I'm walking my dog in the morning. There's the off chance that I'll do it while I'm sitting here at my desk, but because I'm already so in tune with what I'm recording, I will literally write an entire script in my Apple Notes. I just happen to have brought it over here to Word because I'm not streaming from my Mac right now, but I will write everything, or more so dictate it, and using the speech to text. And that's how I have my script. So then when I come to sit down and get ready to like refine it, then I will go and make edits. But script writing, it can, if you're anything like me, inspiration really strikes anywhere. So you want to get thoughts down as they come. So for me, I like to keep it all in my notes app. You may have other places. Sometimes I'll keep them in my OneNote, since at work I'm everything on Windows there, and so I just keep everything in the OneNote. But when it comes to actually doing the recording, I'll show you when we get to that part, like where I actually go to like access the script. So in any case, the script that we have here right now is the one that I had drafted for that video that I shared earlier. Once you have the full script written out, what you'll end up, well, at least what I do is I go and figure out what's a talking head versus what's B-roll. For those unfamiliar, a talking head is literally what I'm doing right now. It is a head that is talking. B-roll is going to be any of the footage that does not necessarily feature your talking head. That's really the simplest way for me to make the distinction between the two. The other type that I also record will be a screen share, because if you're doing technical content, most likely you're also doing a screen recording of some sort. So those are the three types that I personally go through and label in here. Not to get ahead of myself though, because I want to talk about how the scripts came together, but I'll get back into the labeling in just a second. And also, if y'all have questions, like I said, do please post them. I'm looking at things on YouTube and LinkedIn. So in any case, when I am putting a script together, especially this one that's more like a tutorial format, I start off with whatever the hook is going to be, because you want to capture that attention. This is a short form video. So for me, I started off with, you'll never guess what's making this LED glow, for example, because someone might be saying, oh, well, what is making it glow? And then from there, I get into what is the product I'm talking about. And in my case, that's GitHub Copilot CLI agent and the GitHub Copilot CLI hooks, all right? For technical content, I recommend letting it be known up front what the product is that you're even talking about. If you're like 30 seconds in and then you mention the product, you might have already missed the mark on someone even being enticed to watch it, because there's so much else happening where it's like, get to the point, like what is this video about? So you want to mention that as soon as possible. And because someone might come across your first opener for 30 seconds and maybe they were interested in this case in GitHub Copilot, but you didn't mention it until 30 seconds in and they already done went to the next video. So mention that as soon as possible. Then from there, I do a little bit of just setting up how we got here. So in this case, I talk about how, also I should probably give you like context as to what this video even is about. So this video actually makes an LED glow. Well, I show how to make an LED glow anytime GitHub Copilot needs my attention. And so that's the basis of it. So with that said, as I'm heading down the script, I then talk about like why does this matter? So you have your opener, you have the mention of the product, and then why this matters. And your why this matters should not be a 3-page document as to why this matters. Make it short and sweet, okay? If someone, if it's like a YouTube video and someone intentionally landed on it, they already know why they're there. They know why it matters. So that's why you don't need to make that part too long. But if this is something that's newer that no one knows about, you also shouldn't take 3 pages worth of text to explain why it matters either. I think it's something taking that long to explain why it matters. From a product perspective, someone needs to go back and define the value of the product. That's just my personal opinion. So in the beginning, say what it is that of why this thing matters that you're showing. If it's like, if you're doing technical content. So from there, I then dive into, when I get to all the setup that I did, I then dive into what I would consider to be the tutorial portion of it. And I mentioned like, these are the tools that I use. Rather than in this video, rather than saying, you're going to need a Raspberry Pi Pico 2, a resistor, an LED, this and that, I made it more conversational. I said, so I took a Raspberry Pi Pico 2W, a few alligator clips, a 100 ohm resistor, and a yellow LED to see whether I could get this LED to glow whenever Gizmo Copilot needed my input. You can find fun ways to list what the materials are, what the requirements are. It doesn't necessarily always need to be just a list of everything. I've also done other videos where I'll do the Wes Anderson style layout, where I'll have, oh, thank you for loving this, Austin, appreciate it. So I've definitely done the Wes Anderson style where I have the objects laid out perfectly on the desk with labels on it. And I know Jason has seen this because we definitely had our Wes Anderson conversations. But I've done that too. I've done the whole, I'm gonna show an object as I'm listing everything that you need. I think the most boring thing is when someone just puts the list on the screen and they don't physically show the thing. To me, I don't like that. I need to see what it is. For tech content, if everything's like web-based, browser-based, documentation, I get it while it may make sense just to list the stuff you need, but you can just show the screen of each thing because humans have very short attention spans. So if you're just showing a list of what you need and you're talking through what you need and you're stuck on that screen for a very long time, people are going to start zoning out, and you don't want that. So keep the person interested in all the things that are happening on the screen, but also be very careful. It's a delicate balance. You don't want to have too much movement on the screen because it is very possible to have too much information. Oh, we have someone that said this is packed with, this is so packed with value. Thank you, Melody. That makes me happy. So again, as a reminder, I'm on LinkedIn and YouTube. If you have questions or comments, definitely feel free to put them in either place. I will definitely get to you. So with that said, you want to be very careful about how much you're switching things on screen. So when we go into actually editing the video, I'll show you how I approach that as well. In any case, I said, these are the things you need to build this thing. Then from there, I actually take you through the steps. I, right off the bat, just tell you, over in Thonny, I created a script that runs blah, 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 blah. I didn't do step 1 or step 2 or step 3. You can honestly do either way. You can, if you call out explicitly that this is step 1, it does help the viewer because they are aware of where things are in the process. 2, if they're leaving comments and they get stuck on something, they can refer back to, hey, in step 3, you said this and I'm confused. So it's very helpful. It's also helpful if you're doing videos on YouTube since they have the chapter markers, so you can actually make the chapters based on the steps. However, in this video, that's not the process that I necessarily followed. I made it more conversational, a bit more casual, because keeping in mind, this is a 2-minute video, so it's not a full end-to-end tutorial. It's just enough to show you what it takes and to potentially inspire you to create something like that. Now, if I was doing this as a full end-to-end tutorial, I am that step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5 type of person. I also like to add what's called a lower third, and that's going to be when you have that text that overlays in the bottom of the screen. I like to do the lower third. That'll say like step 1. The reason I do this is because it's a really good visual indicator for the person that's viewing. A lot of what you're doing when you're creating content is for the viewer. It's not for yourself. It's for the viewer. You want to make this as enjoyable of a process as you potentially can for them. So do keep that in mind. Now, as I make my way through the process itself. I then get to the end result, and that's where we actually see something happen. So one thing I want to call out about this, because this is important when we go through the label things. We get to the end result at the very end where you see the thing. Because of what I was showing, it's a very visual thing. It would behoove me to also visually show that in the beginning to help create interest. Personally, what I do not like is when someone creates a tutorial and they don't show you in the beginning what the end result is. You have to literally wait to the very end to get to the end result. And it's like, no, like, let me see it up front. So although I do the final at the end showing you what it is, when we go through the label, what gets associated with what type of video, whether it's a talking head, B-roll, or a screen share, I do it twice in the video. But I'm calling out here now that at this point, as we get near the end of the script, this is when you show also the final result, and you spend more time on it here too. And then finally at the end, we wrap things up. So there's two key points here in wrapping things up. The first thing I want to call out is that the conclusion itself doesn't have to be long. It can be short. It can be, all right, and that's how you create, you know, XYZ, and you can leave it like that. By the time people get to the end, you got to remember, they got what they wanted already. So the longer your outro is, it doesn't help really at all. They probably don't click away by that point. But it's still good to have a good outro, because who doesn't love closure? So I like to keep my outros shorter. But then what I recommend to do is to include a call to action at the end. You might have heard of this as a CTA, for example. That call to action at the end is going to be very valuable, because that's what gets people to come back and either watch the next video, or they may, you might want them to go to like a website. So for those that are doing technical content, especially for those of us who work in DevRel, 9 times out of 10, your CTA is you want them to go click a link and do something. So you want to make sure that you do call that out as you wrap up at the end. If you're doing a video for like a little longer, you might show the URL to wherever you want them to go as a lower third somewhere. You might even do that just like throughout the video. You can do that for short form too, but you do want to make sure you have a CTA. So everybody's CTA is going to differ. For me, for this video, my CTA is I want you to stay tuned and subscribe to, or follow me on LinkedIn, whatever it's called, so that way you can see what I do next. That hopefully will entice people to connect on LinkedIn and come back to watch the next videos. When I do my videos for Instagram, do I still have it up? No, I don't have it up right now. But when I do my my CTA for Instagram, I'll actually show you a good one. Let me go to my Instagram. So let's get off of that. One of my recent videos, how to get started with electronics. I won't play this, but this video here, I added the CTA at the end to comment learn if you wanted access to the resource. The resource in question is a curriculum that I had put together that explains how to get started with electronics, like all different topics. The CTA itself here, I kid you not, is what has grew the engagement for this particular post, because I could have just made a video saying I learned electronics and left it like that. But because I had something to give people, I insisted that they comment learn at the end so they can get access to that resource. And I also put it in the comment or the caption itself. So you will see, if you're just looking at the stats for this one, I even go to view insights. This post has done numbers, y'all. This one has, wow, I don't like that it's 666, but I have 33,666 views on this one. You'll also notice that most of the people who've seen this video are actually non-followers. And the more that people are engaging, because I have this thing I'm offering and it's making people comment, Instagram's going to continue to push this out, because the way they see it, this is content people like. Oh, let's go find other people that this resonates with potentially. So that's why having that CTA can be very helpful. In addition to that, I will say this one also gained almost 2,000 followers as well. So if you are in the growth game trying to get more followers, having a CTA that encourages people to engage in the post itself will definitely pay off. I mean, as you can see here, I have already on this one, I don't know if I can show, but let me see. I already have, well, it did say it somewhere at one point. I don't know how to get back to it, but at the very bottom here, oh, my face is blocking it. Let me turn off the camera so you can see. 1 second. So right here, you'll see I have 817 comments on this one video. And that has happened all purely because I have a CTA at the end. For those of us who work in DevRel, that's like gold. That's what managers want to see, that people are going to do whatever the thing that you're telling them to go do. So CTAs, very important. I could probably do a whole thing about CTAs, but I will spare you and not go down the rabbit hole of putting together CTAs. So back to that script that we were working on. Okay, I'm back. Let's go to Word. All right, so that's the whole script in itself. Writing a script can take either as long or as short as it needs to be, just depends on you as a person with coming up scripts. I know this day and age, some folks like doing AI generated scripts, so let me go big on this one. AI generated scripts, I don't hate the concept of using AI to help you with putting together a script. What I don't like is reading verbatim whatever AI has generated. I think it's helpful to help kickstart things a bit, but I also feel like unless the model you're using has been fine-tuned to generate something that's very much in your voice, and there are ways to attempt to do that, I think that if you do any AI generated script, you need to also account for the fact that you will need to go back and modify, update, whatever it is, so that it sounds more in your voice and that it's technically accurate as well. So for this particular video, or all my videos, I've learned that I do best with non-AI generated scripts. I speak a very specific way. I don't necessarily always finish my words appropriately. So instead of saying like the word I want to, I might say I wanna, for example. That's not something AI can capture beautifully in writing. So therefore, if you are doing AI generated scripts, I'm not going to say don't do it, but I will say do plan to spend some time editing them before you start to record. So now that we have the actual full script that's put together, I go through and I label for what's a talking head versus what's a screen share versus what's a screen recording. And usually, again, I'm doing this usually in my Apple Notes, but we can do the same way I do it here on in Word. I like to highlight, and I give each highlighter a job. So anything that's talking head will be one color, anything that's screen recording a different, so on and so forth. All right. Now for the sake or the fact that I want to make sure I bring people in from that very first scene so it catches their eye, I like to open up with B-roll, especially for something like this video, because I think it looks more interesting. And so this part happens before you even turn the camera on, because you really got to think about what it is that you're going to do now as your next couple of steps. Also, Rachel, I'm happy you're here as well. Thanks for joining. So this first one, you'll never guess what's making this LED glow, followed by it's my GitHub Copilot CLI agent, and it's all made possible with GitHub Copilot CLI hooks. This, hands down, I would make that B-roll. Choose whatever color you want, highlight it, move to the next chunk of text. That is what you're going to do for every chunk that you have here. You'll also notice my script is not one long paragraph. The reason why it's not one long paragraph is because I break things up based on what needs to be recorded. So that way I'm not doing one long continuous take. If you can do one long continuous take, kudos to you. That is not me. I am not that skilled. So I break it up in this manner, and it's very helpful when I go to edit, and we'll get into editing later. But from there, this next chunk where now I'm the talking head, that's where I would probably give it, let's see, this yellow color, okay? And you'll do that so on and so forth until you get through everything in the video. I like to mix things up between what's a talking head versus B-roll, what's versus a screen share. So I already recorded this video. I know what's what here. So even with like when I'm showing supplies you need, that's B-roll. You don't have a need to have my face on the camera at that point. I know it's lovely, but I want to focus on what I'm building. Then as I get down, I mentioned being over in Thonny, and also when I start doing things over in Visual Studio Code, these are all screen shares. And y'all, we're going to get into some screen sharing tips in a second as well. So you'll go through and just highlight for yourself. Once you get through everything that needs to be highlighted, only then are you ready now to go start recording, because you have a plan of action and you have an idea of what exactly you now need to go and actually record. So with that said, let's assume I've gone through, I did all the highlights in this script. I'm now ready to record. Well, the first thing that I do is I put the script, or because I'm using on my iPhone, it's already there, but I make sure, oh my gosh, I have a resistor that's like attached to my iPad. I put my script on my iPad. The reason why is that I keep it in front of me as I'm recording. If there's anything that has a script attached to it, or those key points that I mentioned earlier, whenever I don't script an actual video, I keep it on the iPad. I open up the Notes app. I can see all my highlights in there as well. This is like hands down guaranteed in front of me for every video you've ever seen me do, because it's how I keep track of what's being recorded. Some people like to keep things, maybe you might have it written down on like a notebook, for example. The whole point though here is providing access to the script itself. You could also just keep it up on another monitor. So like right now I have a 3-monitor setup. And the off chance I actually have my script on another monitor, it's usually off to the side somewhere so I can do like a quick view. I personally don't like keeping it on one of my computer monitors. Only reason is because I'm very sound sensitive in terms of what gets recorded. So my work computer is very loud. And so when that's on, you'll hear the huffing and the puffing, and I don't want that picked up on the microphone. So that's why I put it on the iPad, because your iPad shouldn't be making any noises. If your iPad's making noises, that's an Apple problem that you might want to go get solved. But when you keep your script on the screen in front of you somewhere, you just want to make sure you have minimal noise everywhere else. So script is completed. I now have it on my iPad in the Notes app. And then from there, the next thing that I do is I plan, okay, what's the order that I'm actually filming all this stuff? For all the videos you see on LinkedIn, as wild as it may seem, I do all that in the same day. That doesn't mean you have to. Some people will do a recording one day and they'll do an editing the next day. Some people record different parts on different days. Nothing is wrong with that. What's important is that you have a plan. That plan is what's going to save you. Let me go big right now. Is what's going to save you the time and the effort. So that way you're not having to backtrack and move from different sort of setups. So for me personally, I record all my talking heads at the same time. I record all of my B-roll at the same time, and I do all of my screen recording at the same time. The wild part that some people realize is I do not record voiceover with my screen recordings when I do any screen recordings for content. I record voiceovers separately, and I record voiceovers separately in the voice recorder in my iPhone. So for me, everything's very separated. You don't have to function in that way. Please do not be as difficult as I am. I have found, however, I'm a creature of habit, so that's what works for me. But if I'm doing something with screen recordings, I record the screen in complete dead silence, y'all. And then off to the side, I'll do the voice recording at another point separately. So this is why it's important to do the highlighting, because you want to have a good idea of where to spend your time as you're recording. Now, for when I'm doing the talking heads, any video that has a talking head, because I'm just going to be real. I'm a lady. I want to look a certain way when I show up on videos. I try to make sure that I'm not doing talking head videos every single day. It's not realistic to get dolled up every single day. That's not saying you have to be dolled up when you go to record anything either. That's just a personal preference. But for me to go and put on whatever I need to put on each time I want to show up on camera, that's not realistic for the life that I live. So I am very mindful of how often I actually do any video with a talking head. Maybe it's only 3 times a week, maybe it's only twice a week. Yeah, some people like to batch record. So if you know you're putting out 4 videos in 1 week, you might record all your talking heads on one day, and you might even do outfit changes. I'm gonna be real with y'all. Y'all do not have to change your outfit. You can stay in the same outfit. If you actually look through all the content that I post on either LinkedIn or Instagram, I rotate the same like 3 to 4 tops that I wear, or I have like one dress that I like to wear. I just rotate them consistently, and I've been doing that for years. So don't feel the need to have to look so different in each video. You can be on your Steve Jobs and wear the same black turtleneck in every single video, because that's not going to matter. People are there for the value that you're providing them in the content itself. So with that said, just be mindful of, for your talking heads, like, how do you like to do it? Or do you like to look a certain way? So that way you're not constantly trying to, like, every single day set that up. So that's the first thing, talking heads. For your B-roll shots, you want to figure out what's the best lighting situation, and we'll get into lighting in just a moment. I realize we're going to go over an hour for sure, and that's a good thing because there's so much to cover here. But for your B-roll shots, I personally find recording in natural light works best for me. The reason why is the desk that I'm at right now is completely glass. And I'll actually show you, because I pulled out the second webcam for that. This is my desk that I work from, okay? It's all glass. So you might be wondering, okay, why does she only use natural light? I get all of my light reflections from the lights that I have on in my office through this desk, and that's not ideal. That's why I only record B-roll in natural light. I have a second desk in my office that is completely solid wood. And for that, I can sometimes add the light, especially if it's nighttime, I can add the light for sure. But you just have to see where the glare is. And so anytime I do like electronic videos, you might notice the light's not consistent with like the light that you see right now. And that's just because I want to reduce that glare or those like glows of anything else that's in the environment. So that's B-roll. And when I go to show you, just like from a recording aspect, what to like consider, I'll show you what I find to be effective in terms of setting up B-roll footage or recording yourself like doing things with your hands. Screen recordings, I'll get to that in a bit, because there are some things I would say to keep in mind if you really want to take your screen recordings to the next level. So we have the script on the iPad. We have an idea of the order in which we're going to film things. And then the next thing, let me see. Make sure I'm not missing anything in comments. All right, so the next thing that we need to do is our setup. So we're going to have a slight field trip. I just realized my Mac is dying. So everyone, we're going to take a quick little water break. Let me grab my charger from my Mac, and I will be right back. Okay, we're back. Crisis averted. So when it comes to the setup itself, what you'll Oh, there was a question. What does B-roll mean in this case? Thank you. Appreciate all the steps and explanations. So B-roll is going to be any of the shots that you're taking that does not feature the individual that's talking. So right now, this is going to be your talking head videos. However, B-roll will be, in the video that I did, B-roll will be where I'm not on screen and maybe I'm holding like my Raspberry Pi. That's going to be your B-roll, for example. Sorry, I had a camera that was starting to call. Okay, so the setup itself is now one of my favorite topics. I feel like I've gotten the most questions about setup over the years, and my setup has evolved a lot over the years. Yeah, a lot. A lot has changed. Now, my current setup, and I'll take you on a tour of it here that I have in my office, is a camera in front of me, usually. All content I create is actually done on my iPhone. So when we start thinking about like tools and stuff that I use, everything, with the exception of this live stream, everything is done on my iPhone. And usually people will ask me, well, which iPhone is it? And the iPhone in question, let me look it up because I always forget. This is I think it's a 16. Let me see. Yeah, it's a 16 Pro Max, all right? So it's a couple of generations old. But I always tell people, it's not that you have to go get this camera. You have some people who record on like cameras that cost thousands upon thousands of dollars, but you're not always guaranteed to have the best quality. It all comes down to your lighting. I have a probably super modified 3-point light setup, and I'll show you what that looks like. So bear with me as I move the second camera around. I have a softbox light that's here. I have an Elgato key light air there. And then I have another light that's here. So those lights are always the lights that I have on when I'm recording. The other thing I will show you, oops, wrong one, sorry guys. I have a window in front of me. And then you see this window that's back there? That window's always closed. If you look at any of my videos, that window's always closed. There's like the off chance that it might be open, and that's because it was a mistake. I'll show you why I close it. When you're working with your lights, you want to make sure that you provide the right amount of light for your space. With that window open, we now have this like glow of God behind me, where it's like someone is shining a light on me in the back, and I don't like the way that looks. You can either get rid of all the lights that are all the how do I say it? All the natural light that's in your space. And if you get rid of all the natural light that's in your space, you want to resolve that by doing some sort of artificial light setup. So let me show you, like with the softbox, with key lights as well. So that's going to be the trade-off. Everyone has their own opinion on it. I personally, my whole office is like extra dark with the exception of where you see this wallpaper. So whenever I do need to record something, whether day or night, I know I can close all the windows in here and it'll be like pitch black in here, okay? And I did that on purpose. Now I'm gonna close this one behind me because I don't like that it is open. So I do close that one off. I have the other lights. I also have my overhead lights on as well. If you're curious to see what it's like without that, you can see here that this is now overhead lights off. And I don't think it looks bad. I think it looks okay. I just personally like to just keep the lights on. It just makes the scene just a tad brighter. Also, I don't do any color adjustments when I edit. I don't have time for that. So I like to keep this one on. It's also helpful that that particular light can be dim, so it doesn't necessarily have to be bright all the time. And thank you, Rachel, for saying my setup looks amazing. I appreciate this. So With lighting, again, you can go the natural light route, which content creators will tell you natural light is really great. Photographers will also probably tell you that as well. If you're not in a place that has a lot of good natural light, no worries. You can fill your space with artificial light instead. In addition to that, I would say ring lights. Oh my goodness. I know some of y'all do this, so no offense, no offense. But if you're recording with a ring light, try to avoid getting that glow of the ring reflected somewhere in your scene because it is very visible. People like me who can get distracted easily, we get distracted and your whole video could be super valuable, but we're so focused and fixated on the glow of that ring light that's somewhere reflected. So do keep that in mind. It's not a deal breaker, but it is a distraction, and that's why I bring that up. There are different things you can record on, like this Canvas. That's the company device. It has a ring light attached to it. I think when I bought this a couple years ago, I may have used a ring light like twice, and that's it. Because I like to use the light setup that I have in my actual space. It just works out better for me. In addition to that, with light, I would say sometimes people will tell you to have a light in the background as well somewhere. So this lamp actually is a light. I just never have it on because it's dead, but it does add to the ambiance. Speaking of ambiance, because people sometimes think they have to have the most like aesthetically pleasing background when they're recording videos, and that's not necessarily the case. You don't have to go all out. And I'll get to your question, Rachel, in just a second about the name of the key light, because I have a very helpful resource for that. But when it comes to putting together your background itself, do what feels right for you, the creator, because that's most likely where you're going to be sitting down to do your videos. I find that keeping interesting things in my background is really helpful, but it's also just how I naturally decorate. I am a display sort of person, so I like to put collected objects here and there, but there are some rules I will say, and I'm breaking a couple of those rules myself. So, for example, plants in the background are great. Dead plants, not so much. I even have a bouquet of flowers here that's like dead. They're dead. Get rid of this from the background. Don't put that in your videos. In addition to that, anything that you don't want to have in the background, don't include that in your videos either. Things that might be questionable, get rid of it. Things that might have your address on it, get rid of it. You don't want those things accidentally showing up in a video somewhere, so just be very mindful of that. I like to keep some level of balance, and so that's why I have bookshelves on both sides. But you might want to do something completely different for certain, and nothing's wrong with that. Do what feels natural to you. That's like my best advice on that, because you're going to be this is your space that you're going to be in when you're recording, and so you want to make sure that you're always comfortable when you come to it. If you happen to be recording on site somewhere in a studio, usually they have their own like studio setup. So just like you just make do with whatever's there. But if you're doing your own at-home setup, go to a space that you really like and enjoy. Make it your own. Make sure your personality shines in it. Now, Rachel asked a really great question about the name of the key lights that I use. I mentioned there's a couple of different tools that I use. On my website, which is at builds.prettywiredlabs.com, and I think on LinkedIn, I will be able to put that in the chat, builds.prettywiredlabs.com. I don't know if YouTube is tripping and won't let me put it in there. Yeah, let me log into YouTube and give me a second, everyone. So on my website, what I've done to help people, because I've gotten this question a lot over the years, if you go to where it says shop, This is literally anything you may have seen me mention that I own, and it's in like at any point in life. So if you scroll down to my content creator setup, that is where you can find every single piece of tech that I own for my setup. I'm putting it in the YouTube comments right now for anyone that's on YouTube waiting for the link. But that is where you can go and find anything that I have in my setup. And I'll get through some of those tools here in just a second. These are affiliate links for the most part, so just as a disclaimer, but this is everything that I personally own in my setup. Do I use everything when I record? Absolutely not. I switch out things here and there because it completely just depends on what I'm recording. But if you're curious to know what are the exact things I own and use and do stand by, these are the objects or the items that I own. I'll show you some of them, not every single one of them right now, but for the video that like I recorded for the one that we're going to edit in just a second, I'll take you through some of the stuff that I actually use. So first and foremost, microphones. For any voiceovers, what I tend to use are these DJI microphones that come in this little box. Inside of it, there's two of them. This is really great if you are doing like in-person interviews with someone, or there's two people that's recording, because you both can get a microphone. The microphones themselves are incredibly small. You've probably seen these in videos. Sorry, my nails are in the way. But this is what they look like. They're very small, guys. And on the back, they can either clip with a magnet or a clip itself. The part you talk out of is like right here at the top. So this is what I use when I record my voiceovers. The reason why is because this other piece inside here, Melody, I'll give you my YouTube in just a second. This other piece in here is what connects to the phone itself. So it's a two-part thing. You take this bottom part off, and then you slide this smaller part into here, and you can plug it right into your iPhone. And then from there, you can record voice on your iPhone. So I'm pretty sure that works for Android too. Not an Android girl, but that's how I record my voiceovers. If you ever seen me do my videos on Pretty Wired builds, usually I have Cynthia with me, and I clip the microphone onto Cynthia. So that's what that microphone is. The microphone also comes with these little, I don't know what these are called, but it does help with removing a lot of like the background noise. I think there's one black, the other one is like gray, and there might be four. I think, yeah, they give you two of each color. All that comes together with the microphone. One of the best investments, I will say, that I have made as someone who creates content. That is what I use for voiceovers. That's also what I use on Pretty Wired builds, because usually I'm sitting back and not at a microphone like this. This Moft is what I use for capturing close B-roll. So if there's something on my desk that I want to record, instead of trying to like kind of get the camera in a certain, or get the phone in a certain spot so that way I can record, I actually just use this. This Moft is foldable. It's magnetic. So if you have like the MagSafe, whatever on your phone, it will stick to it. I don't know where my phone is. I'll show you though what that's like. I found if I take the case off, it's better, but it connects right onto the phone. See, like I'm not even holding the phone now. And because you can fold this down, you can do just like different things in terms of like how you want to get it set up. This folds back and forth. So this Moft is how I usually record, I use it for my B-roll. Now the next thing that I also use, and I shared it just a second ago, when I'm recording my videos, because I record, if you recall, everything on my iPhone, I need something to actually hold the iPhone. This canvas, let me see, what do they call it? I know I have it. on my website. Let me see. It's called the Canvas Lamp with Weighted Base, in case you're curious. This is heavy, all right? But this arm can move in whatever positions, it can turn, and it keeps the camera in here, all right? So when I'm recording, that's what's literally right in front of me that's holding the phone. They do have an attachment that's like a magnet that you can just sit the phone on and it'll hold it. I own that as well, but I don't have that listed on the website for one. Oh no, I do have it. I do. I'm sorry. The Canvas magnetic phone mount. That's in there. I don't use it anymore. I used it for quite some time, and then I just switched back to using the one that comes with it already. So I think either one is good. It's just personal preference. In addition to that, microphones. So if I'm not recording voiceovers, this is the actual microphone I do all my recordings on. This is the Rode PodMic, and this is also incredibly heavy as well. If you are doing anything with the Rode PodMic, right off the bat, you're probably noticing what is this cord that's attached to it, because this is not a USB, all right? They do come in the USB version. When I was doing my just like personal reviews to see what other creators had to say, they said that sound quality was not as good as opposed to using the XLR cord, and that's what this is. It's an XLR cord. So I ended up going with the XLR cord. Now you also may realize, how does this plug into a computer, right? And you could plug it into the computer and you can manage sound and everything through it that way, but you're going to need something to do that. I have the Wave XLR from Elgato. There is a slot right there on the back that this can plug into. And once you plug that in, you then need to connect it to your iPhone. I don't have my chunky cable here, but it's that flat, is that the micro, what is that called? Not the regular USB, but what's that flat USB? I think it's a C cable. Yeah, the C. The C cable is what will attach to the back of here, and you can plug that into your iPhone. It's not the most beautiful setup, I'm telling you, but it gets the work done, and it really helps with the sound quality. The stand itself does not come with the microphone, so do keep that in mind. For anyone curious, the stand, it is also listed on my website. The stand that I use is the Elgato Wave desk stand. And as you can see, it's compatible with other microphones because this is a Rode PodMic. This is the, or actually, is this the Wave desk stand? Let me see. Yeah, that's the Wave desk stand, that's right. So yeah, so it's compatible with other microphones. Again, this is heavy, y'all. Let's see, what else do I have? In addition to that, oh, let me give Melody the YouTube channel. So on LinkedIn, there was a question about the YouTube channel. Let's see if this works. 1 second, everyone. Nope, I had the URL wrong. So let me, uh-oh. Oh my goodness, I closed everything on my screen. 1 second, everyone. I had an uh-oh. Let me go to my channel. And then let me get back into here. So sorry about that. I lost my channel that quick. 1 moment. Thanks for your patience. Let's see. Oh, I think I know what it is. Sorry, YouTube URLs are so finicky. All right, so over on LinkedIn, Melody wanted the YouTube channel. I just put it in the chat in case anyone wants to find my YouTube channel. All right, so back to supplies. Let's see, what else do I have here? Let me exit a couple things on my end though. Flying solo is a task. I can definitely say this. All right, okay, so those are supplies. There's other things that you'll see listed on the website. If you have any questions about any of the things that are on there, do feel free to reach out and I'll do my best to answer. I also have some tripods on there. For tech content, usually like my work stuff, like anything GitHub stuff, I don't need to use the tripods for anything. They are helpful for holding the camera if you're doing anything with like an iPhone or like an actual camera. But like I said, everything that's listed on there, those are the items that I personally own and use. So those are going to be your supplies. And as we make our way down the recording side of doing things. Okay, so when I record talking head video, you want to be centered, because if I'm all the way over here and I'm recording, now when I go to edit, I got to scale the video up so I can sit myself here in center, and I might not have enough clearance on this other side to balance it out. And then it looks like I'm like, bam, in your face, which I don't personally like the way that looks. So you want to make sure you're as centered as possible when you go to record. You also want to try to film from, I would say like you're slightly above belly button up, and leave just a bit of space at the top. Right now I have way too much space here at the top. But the benefit is that you can always edit that in post. You can scale the video a little bit, so then you're more like this. But the point here is that you want to have a little bit of space. Like right now I have way too much space between my head and the top here. But it's good if I ever want to zoom something out. If you happen to capture more than just those areas, so like right now you can technically see my legs, then keep in mind that that's going to show up on camera unless you edit that out. So just know whatever you have on, if you're showing all that, is going to appear. And make sure, again, like I said, everything in your background is fine as you're recording. So that's for your talking head videos. Also, look into the camera when you're talking. If you look to the side as you're talking, if you're looking down as you're talking, it's hard as a viewer to like be there with you if you're doing a talking head. This is where also script reading can make or break a video, because sometimes it's very obvious when someone's reading a script because their eyes are like over here the whole time while they're talking, and it's just like, hey, over here, we're over here. So if you happen to have a script in front of you, what I like to do, I keep it off to the side. I read it a couple times, I rehearse it a couple times before I record, and then I hit record, which reminds me that like most key piece of tech that I own for my recording, and this is also listed on the website, it's this little guy. This little Bluetooth remote is what controls the camera, because there's no way I can run and press record every single time that I record. This is on the website. It's relatively inexpensive. It connects to your phone via Bluetooth, and every time I go to record a segment, I just press the center button, and then when I'm done, I press it again to like stop recording. This is probably something I cannot live without. So anyways, as you're recording your talking heads, the easier you can make to start and stop recordings, the better. The other thing that I use is, for talking heads, I mirror what's on my iPhone to show on my Mac. So that way I know what I look like, because I use the back camera on my phone, so the back camera on the phone, but because of that, I can't see what's on the front. So therefore I need to make sure I'm in frame, make sure that things are okay. So I just use the mirror feature on my iPhone to display the same thing on my Mac, and that's how I'm able to know what I look like. You can if you're recording on your iPhone these days, you can mirror your iPhone to the TV, you can mirror your iPhone to a monitor. There are ways that you can go about making sure that you can actually see yourself when you're recording. And I think that's it for talking heads, I would say. The next thing would be the B-roll. So for B-roll shots, that's where I usually use this device, or I use that Moth that I showed, the thing that my phone attaches to. Make sure that your camera's in focus. If you're showing something like, if your hand's holding something, or you're like trying to show something on like a physical thing that's like in your space, just make sure it's in focus. Depending on your camera, you might be able to like get really good zoomed in. So that can be a little bit of a trial and error, I would say. Screen recording, though, is the thing I actually want to dive into right now. So what I have on screen for you all, wrong screen, here we go. This is Visual Studio Code. If you're not familiar, you're new here, this is where you can go and do coding. So here in VS Code, right now, let's say I want to record this project that I have open. I want to record the code that's in here for something that I'm filming. I like to use Snagit. If you've never used Snagit, don't know what it is, I will pull it up right now. But Snagit, I will say it is not free. There are other free tools that exist, but I like to use Snagit. I can set the width and the height for the recording itself. I can also make sure that it doesn't capture the cursor. You might notice in my videos, I do not include the cursor in it at all, but that's personal preference. And then you can actually record. So once you do the recording, it saves it. Well, it doesn't like save it, but it puts it in like its Snagit Studio, and then you have to manually save it wherever you want to save. Now, when I'm doing the recording itself, as I'm in here, I need to know what it is I want to actually include in the video. If I'm purely recording code, everything that's here on this left, I don't need that in the video. Unless I'm explicitly calling out something in one of the directories, that's the only time I'll keep this Explorer open. But if you're in an editor or an IDE, close it. Give yourself more real estate on the screen, show the actual code. The second thing is that I make sure that everything is big and visible. So that way, when I go to record, people aren't trying to like squint their eyes to see what it is I'm trying to show on the screen. And so zoom in, because if I were to zoom out here, like who wants to read that? That is way too tiny. So that's why I say zoom in before you start the recording. It can be a headache to try to fix that in post when you go to edit. So just start zoomed in. The next thing would be choosing a really good theme. For work, any videos that you may see me do with GitHub Copilot, I use, I think it's like Monokai or something in terms of the theme. It's a lighter theme. This dark one that I have on here just happened to have been like the default that I have in VS Code. But what I would definitely recommend is, let me see, themes. I would definitely change to something that's going to be easy on the eyes for folks. If you ever post any technical content on YouTube and you happen to use light mode, there's always going to be someone who feels that it's their job to tell you that they hate light mode, to which I say, I don't care. I personally like light mode. It's helpful for my eyes, but everyone has their thing, and some people feel like their opinions need to be heard, which they don't. In any case, I would always recommend coming into VS, if you're using VS Code at least, and switching to one that looks good. I think, oh, that is not the Monokai that I use. I would not record a video with this color theme. I don't find it accessible to myself. And so I don't suspect that others will probably like it either. I'll have to find the one that I use. I forget the name of it. I thought it was Monokai. But in any case, you want to go with a theme that you, one, that's great for you, but two, it makes it easy for the viewers as well when they're viewing the videos. So for the sake of this one, since I was already in dark, I'll just go back to the dark mode. Yeah, that's the default. The next thing, when you're recording your screen and you're showing code, you see how I have something that says update at the top? Let me zoom one more time. I have a button that says update at the top. I have a little number counter here that shows me what extension needs to be updated. Y'all, get rid of that stuff. Don't include it in your recording. Do the VS Code update. Do the extension update. Get rid of it. Try to keep your screen as clear of that stuff. Like even down here in settings, I have in the manage area, I see I have an update. It's literally the same notification that's there. Do your updates before you start recording. It is very distracting on screen. It doesn't make things as clean as you probably would hope for it to be. So do those updates, okay? The other thing I will call out is actually it's a perfect example. If I open up the terminal now, if you're recording anything in the terminal, unless you have a strong reason to still have the code showing at the top, just show the whole terminal. Expand it. If I'm doing anything with Copilot, CLI, like I'm gonna start it up right now, I just make the whole screen big for Copilot. There is literally no point in making you squint your eyes to what's down here in the bottom half of the screen. Unless, like I said, I have a really compelling reason to still show the code that's up here. Just make this big, okay? You will definitely make your viewers happy for that, so on and so forth. The next thing, as I called out, things that can be distracting. Right now here at the bottom, I see there's an update that needs to occur. Do the update. Do it before you record. It will make things look more clean. Your videos will look polished. The other thing that some people like to get rid of, I know when we do our videos for work, sometimes we're asked to make them as timeless as possible. And what that means is getting rid of the clock. That's, let me get rid of my face. Getting rid of the clock, that's down here in the date as well. And so you can disable that bar in your settings, so that way you don't have to have that in the recording. For my personal videos, I keep them up. For anything that's going on like a first party platform for my job, I get rid of it then. So that's just something to keep in mind. Now, when you're recording anything with code, what I recommend, if it's something that's going to take a long time, like if you're doing something with AI, for example, and you're waiting on your agent to complete something, you don't have to record every little bit of what the agent does. I promise you, no one wants to watch 10 minutes of your agent thinking and going back and forth with itself. I can guarantee you that. So what you do instead is you record the whole setup of you prompting the agent, record a bit of the thinking that it does, record a bit of the changes that you see happening, but you don't have to record the whole process, because when we go to edit, 80% of that's not going to make it. 80% of it will never see the light of day in the video. So don't feel like you have to record all that. Depending on how you're doing your screen recording, you should be able to like pause it or just restart a new recording. In addition to that, for the screen recordings when you're doing things with code, this is actually a little trick that I found to be helpful. I've had instances, I can go big on this. I had instances where I tested something out in advance with Copilot in terms of a process, and I got it to work, but I never recorded Copilot doing a thing because I wasn't sure like what was going to happen. I would literally prompt Copilot and tell it, I'm recording a video now. I need you to go back and pretend that you are doing what you just did again for the very first time. Don't include any sort of text that indicates that you're faking it right now. Like, I have done that, and the models, depending on the model you're using, because with Copilot you can use a variety of different language models, it gets it every single time. So if you are doing any sort of technical like code or agent related recording, and you got it working, you were testing it, but now you need to record it doing it again, and we know how models can be non-deterministic, because they are, you can prompt the model to redo whatever it just did from an output generation perspective, and it's gonna get it. Hopefully it gets it for you when you go to do it again. I've had success with that. So that's just a little tip I will say I've learned if you're recording anything with agents. In addition to that, I would say if there's anything you don't want to show on the screen, then either just don't show it or edit it out when you go to edit the video. It can sometimes be a headache to try to edit it out when you go to do your edits, especially if you're a little less experienced with doing video editing. So always try to make it a point not to show anything that you don't want to show. In addition to that, be careful with what you're sharing. I know sometimes IP addresses might get shared or recorded because of whatever you're filming. Try to not share that in your recording. API keys, while you're recording, it can be very challenging to like not show that depending on the screen that you're in. What I would recommend doing is you can do the recording where it shows the keys, but when you go to edit, you need to cover it with something in the editing software you're using so that way it doesn't make it to the final version of the video. And the last thing I'll show in terms of recording is when you have to do a recording of an actual web page. So I am going to take you over to one of the screens I actually recorded when I did my GitHub Copilot CLI hooks video, and that is the actual documentation itself. The same rules apply with making sure the text is visible. So zoom in. Please don't hurt the eyes of your viewers. Zoom in so that way people can see it. And the other thing is decide whether you actually want to show all the tabs at the top. I know some of you love a good tab. I don't like having tabs open. And so what I recommend doing, if you don't want to close those precious tabs, if you are on a PC or Windows, if you will, on your keyboard, you can type F11 and it takes all that away, okay? I promise you nobody wants to see your bookmarks. I know they might be fascinating, but they can be very telling because you just never know what people have saved up there, even if they're harmless, but get rid of it. This is also going to be helpful when you go to edit your video as well later, so that way you only have the view of what needs to be shown. So it's going to be F11 if you're on Windows. If you happen to be on a Mac, there is a setting in Safari that I found recently. I wonder if I can find it again. Oh yeah, so in Safari, if you go to view, there's an enter full screen. And if you enter full screen, it'll also hide that same stuff that you're able to hide if you're in like Chrome or Edge. So that's one thing I'd recommend. If you don't hide it, the world's not going to end. I just think it creates a cleaner look going from this to this. It's a much more clean experience for recording. Now, Rachel, thank you. Rachel has said your videos always come out so beautifully. Please, do you have any recommendations for resources or courses on video editing that we could look into? It's all going to depend on what you use for editing your videos, and I'll get into that in just a second. Historically, though, I've always used Premiere Pro, but more recently, I use CapCut. With that said, to find resources for how to edit your videos, you're going to want to look on YouTube, honestly, for videos that are related to whatever software you're doing editing in. In addition to that, the other thing that I also tend to watch, and if I ever come across any that I personally recommend based on my watch history, I sometimes will watch content creators that aren't tech content creators and just them explain their editing process. And that tends to be very helpful as well, because a lot of the stuff transfers very nicely over to what we do in tech as well. So it's really a combination in terms of resources of watching software-specific videos on YouTube, or just watching general video editing advice from other creators as well on YouTube. So that's what I would recommend. Now, at this stage, the other thing I would say, if you are doing your screen recordings, like how here I recorded this screen when I had made my video, decide whether you want the cursor to be in the video. I find cursors can be very distracting. As you would probably notice by now, I find a lot of things to be distracting. That's a personal problem, but I feel like I'm not alone. So if you have a cursor in your video, you do want to make this a good size. I think there's like, not even I think, I know there is for certain cursor changes you can make if you happen to go into your settings for your computer. I'm in the wrong spot, but let's see, mouse pointer side. Oh no, it's in accessibility. So if you are like on Windows, for example, if you go into your settings and you have the cursor that's there, you can change to any color you want. You can also just choose your color as well. You can make it bigger. And so now I've slid it up and you see how that's like a really big difference in terms of cursor. But I keep this one at this small because I actually don't record my cursors in my videos. And I would say, check out the settings that's in there if you're keeping your cursor in view. If you're not keeping your cursor in view for what you're recording, I'd recommend having a way to make it clear what you're pointing at when you are doing your video editing. One of I think the worst things you can do is, actually I'll show you, to have one of these frantic cursors like this that's just moving anywhere. Or if you're trying to show, like, let's say I'm trying to tell you to go to prerequisites and I'm like circling like that, please don't do that. Please don't. You can add a box around it when you go to edit. You don't have to do that. It doesn't translate the way that you're probably hoping that it would. So just be very mindful if you're using your cursor in things. The other thing I'll bring up, as I would like record this particular screen in the browser, sometimes websites will enable you to collapse the sidebar. So unless you have a compelling reason to show what's on the sidebar, collapse it. That just gives you more real estate for why people are here, what they actually want to see. So I mentioned a lot about making sure you keep the focus in the right place. The reason being is that the video is for people to get what they need out of it. If you add way too many irrelevant things, it just takes away from the overall video quality and experience as well. So that's very important to keep in mind. All right. So at this stage, I would have done my recordings. I would have did the B-roll. I would have did the voice recording. For voice recording, I didn't mention anything about that. What I would say is get yourself into a room that's as quiet as possible. Like, I've recorded in the closet before. Like, go wherever you need to go where you don't have that much sound. You can do edits in post with your audio quality for sure, and there's a lot of good ways to do that nowadays. But the less you need to edit, the better. So I would say find yourself a quiet space. Right now, we're still in the thick of summer where I live in California, so we have the AC on. Depending on your microphone quality, I would say you might find that it behooves you to record when the air is not pumping, because it might pick up and you can hear that in the background. But if that's something that you can't control, then you can't control it. I wouldn't cry over it, but I would say be mindful of what other sounds and distractions may occur. I have a dog, for example. He likes to bark if the doorbell rings. So sometimes when I'm recording, I find myself having to just like stop and then redo a take because the sound gets picked up. And even if the sound is far away, you can still slightly hear it in the audio, especially if someone has on headphones. So I would say try to keep the space as quiet as you possibly could, because that's going to help you a lot when you go to do your editing later. So that's, and then also I did mention that about the microphones earlier. So the DJI one that I have, whether you're using the DJI, whether you're using the Blue Yeti that's in front of me, this and this are practically the same thing, okay? This is what stops those explosives from happening, things where people are like, and any sort of like, it gets rid of all that. That's the best way I can describe it without getting too technical and deep in the weeds. Because I recorded things without this on the DJI mic and then versus with it, and it's always better when I put one on the little microphone. It attaches to it. It's not the prettiest, but it works. We're not here to be the prettiest, so we need to be functional. All right, so we have the voice recordings. We would have had the screen recordings. We have the talking head recordings. And now all this stuff needs to live somewhere. If you don't want to have any future headaches, what I recommend doing is putting things in a folder of some sort. So like right here, for example, all my videos that I record live in a videos folder, and then each video in there has its own folder. So this is the GitHub Copilot CLI Hooks one, and anything related to that is in here. Organization has been like the biggest thing I have learned over the years, and I will say do not sleep on it because you can end up having a bunch of files everywhere. Anytime, because I edit all my videos on my personal computer and not my work computer, that means any screen recordings I do on my work computer, I need to get them to my personal. And the way that things are locked down at work, I can't just put them on a USB and then plug it into my other computer. So I put everything in Google Drive. And so right now, I also have a folder dedicated for each video in Google Drive as well. This was for another video I posted this week for my talk from Render. And anything that was a screen recording, it's all in here. So that way, when I get over to my personal computer, I can just download all this. Yes, it's a manual process. Is there a better way to do this? Probably absolutely is. However, I'm at the mercy of the limitations that I have, just given that my work stuff gets recorded on my work computer and I don't have the cleanest way to transition stuff from one place to the other. That just is what it is. So that's how I make sure I keep things organized. Some people like to keep all their footage. I'm not a keep all my footage type person. I record and then it's gone. I'll keep the final video and that's really it. Everything else I'll get rid of. I'm really big on keeping things organized across my my computers. So if I don't clean everything up, usually every 6 months for certain, but at the start of every new year, absolutely everything gets wiped. There are external hard drives you can save things on. If you're the type of person that needs to keep video footage for anything. For Pretty Wired builds, I have B-roll just from various videos that sometimes look great adding to other videos. So sometimes I'll keep some of that B-roll, but usually if the video happened already, then I'm over it. I'm on to the next thing. So I don't actually keep a lot of my footage, but I know everyone has their own personal preference. So what I recommend is that you keep things organized in a way that's going to be helpful for you. Now, from an editing perspective, I mentioned that I like to edit in CapCut. So we're going to take a trip over to CapCut. Let me go there. So this is CapCut, and that's me making a face. What I have in front of you is the outcome of the full video that I created for the GitHub Copilot CLI hooks video that is on LinkedIn that I posted yesterday. This video is only 2 minutes and 12 seconds long. You might be wondering, how long does it take me to edit? An hour. It takes an hour. And it could be shorter if I didn't do the level of edits that I do. It could be shorter if I didn't have to go through 17 takes for me trying to say 2 sentences, for example, because I have to go through the footage to find the one that I like best. So it's going to vary. For someone else, a 2-minute video, it might take you 2 days, but guess what? Nothing's wrong with that. It's just that we all edit different. Some of us have furthered our skills in editing more than others, and that's fine too. The best way to reduce your editing time, I would say, is repetition for certain. This is also why we plan the script in advance, because you know the flow of the video too. So that will give you an idea of like how long it might take you to actually edit something. I would say recording, probably, I always set aside an hour to record, and that's all the recording, the talking head, the B-roll, the screen sharing. And then I also dedicate another hour to editing. So I can get a video out in, let's call it an hour, let's call it 2.5 hours, because assuming I also got to write the script, I'm going to account for that as well, and then anything else that could like probably go wrong. So 2.5 hours total is how long it would take for me to do something that's short form like this. Could I get a long form video out also in 2.5 hours if I'm not doing a lot of crazy edits? If I'm not trying to do all these transitions, I'm not trying to like zoom this and circle this and throw a graphic here, I can also edit that in 2.5 hours. The more complex your editing is, the longer it will take for you to finish up with a video. This is why all the advice I gave about things to avoid doing while you're recording is important, because the more you have to edit in post, the more time you're going to spend editing. And I don't know about y'all, I don't want to spend my entire day editing a video either. This is also why I do one video a day. I mentioned in the very beginning that some people like to batch record, and nothing's wrong with batch recording. But I also know over the years, I do best when I can do one video at a time and then it's done. Because when I used to batch record, I would just be sitting on content that by the time I go to edit, I'm over it and I don't care about it anymore. So doing one at a time is helpful. It also enables me to be timely. I should have been big this whole time for this. It helps me be timely as well for just how quickly things move in the AI space. Because what I would hate to do is spend like a Wednesday batch recording 10 videos, and by the time I go to edit video 8, it's irrelevant. No one's talking about that topic. Everyone's moved on to something else. And now I literally wasted time recording all those videos. So I like to do just one video at a time. But if you're doing like a series on something, like when I did my MCP for Beginners series for my job, that I definitely did a batch recording in. But that video series was not going to be something that was going to be outdated, because the purpose of the video series was as the intro to each of the chapters in our MCP for Beginners course. So therefore, that was okay to batch record. But for the videos that you see me do on LinkedIn, there's no way I would batch record those, because there's always something new. It's always something changing in AI, because I do AI videos. There's that. Same rules apply for Instagram. So let me drink my water because I've been holding it. So, sorry if you heard all the swallowing sounds. That was disgusting. So, Instagram's the same way. Some content creators will tell you batch record for Instagram because you got to post every single day. Let me tell y'all, I do not post every single day. You might get one video from me a week, sometimes one every 2 weeks. And let me tell you, you can still grow in doing that. And I know advice in the past has always been post, 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 post. That's how you're going to be seen. No. Post content that has value. People will see it, the algorithm will pick it up, and you can grow that way. And that's how I grew my own account. I would say back in March, maybe, I was probably at 200 and something followers, for example. And now, as we saw just a moment ago when I was on the Instagram, I'm at 14,000 followers. And that is not because I posted every single day. So providing the value is what's going to help you grow, because people are going to like it, the algorithm picks it up, and like I said. Now, I'm going on a tangent because I know we were talking about editing here, but this is just calling out, when you go to do your edits, try to make it as easy as possible for yourself when you get to this part of the process, because you could have recorded the most beautiful, well put together video, and if the editing part is the headache of it, that video will never see the light of day. And that's not what you want. You want to bring your video to the masses. So if we go back to CapCut now, as mentioned, I used to use Premiere Pro for years, like years. And the only reason that I switched to CapCut, which is what I have here on the screen, is because I found it was quicker for me to edit videos in CapCut. The version of CapCut that I use does cost, so I do have a CapCut subscription. I believe there's a free version, but it does limit some of the assets that you can have access to. That's one of the reasons why I switched to CapCut, was I would spend like $50-something a month to get credits to use with Adobe Stock, so that way I can get stock animations and stock overlays and things like that. And I was over it. It was way too much money for that. But CapCut, I get this, and it includes so many different effects, audio clips, that's the other thing, little sound effects, and I like doing all of that. Plus, I feel like the usage, or just figuring out how to use the features, is easier, in my opinion, in CapCut. I think if someone's getting started with video editing and they're trying to figure out which platform to use, I'd recommend CapCut, but there are definitely other tools that are simpler for certain. There are other tools that are free as well. but this is the one that I happen to use, and this is the one that we're going to look at today. So here in CapCut, I have all my videos added that I want to bring into this particular video. You'll even see here I have a voice recording that
It glows. Oh my goodness, it really glows.
So like that, I recorded myself doing something that like I messed up on and I had to just get a voiceover for. I had my screen recordings, I have my talking heads. So you bring all that in here. What I recommend in CapCut doing is sorting them by name and then A to Z, depending on if that's like the order that you recorded. I record everything in order, so that's what helps me out. Now we're not going to go through and edit like everything in this video, so I'll just do like 2 segments so you can get an idea of how I approach the editing. Again, the video already is up, so you can definitely take a look at the final thing on LinkedIn. What I'm going to do is move everything that I have. Let me see, I forgot something. Let me see how I can do this best. I'm going to take everything that I have in CapCut. Maybe I can move it up here. Yeah, okay, cool. So that just leaves us with something to work with. So right now, here's that intro that I mentioned earlier. I know I put in the script, when we looked at the script earlier, that it was going to be B-roll. It actually ended up being a talking head when I recorded this. So we start off with the talking head itself, which is me talking, and I'll get rid of the effects that I added so you can see how I go about adding that in. What is this? A sound effect. Okay, cool. So let me just move this guy. This guy does not want to move. Oh, I know why. There we go. Okay, so here in CapCut, you can extend the timelines, and I knew I wanted this to be my intro. So I pull the video in, I get rid of whatever does not need to be in the video itself. So like this one is number 3838. I actually recorded this last instead of in order, despite what I said before. But here's what the original video looks like. Right off the bat, you'll notice this is obviously way longer than what's here. The reason being is that I did 2 takes of it, just as in case. I ended up going with one of the 2. When I go to actually edit this, I don't keep anything that doesn't need to be there. I like my videos to start off as though I'm already talking. I don't like to start like this and then I start talking. I'm talking as soon as the video starts. Now, once I have that figured out, then I can get rid of anything that I don't need. And so let's say, for example, everything to my left I want to get rid of. Bring the marker as close as possible to when the words start. And then from there, I can delete left, and then I'm left with just that segment that I need. You do the same thing at the other end as well, but you want to catch it right where you're done talking, because when I record my talking heads, this is actually good advice I got from years ago. I forgot who gave me this advice. When you're recording your talking head, when you get done talking, hold yourself, whatever is the last place you were recording, because you want to be able to do a clean cut wherever necessary. So I'll show you here. I don't know if the audio is going to play, but I'll just show you what I mean by that.
Glow.
So you see how after glow, I'm still holding it. And if I do it more,
This LED glow.
And you see how I'm just holding that still? Like I didn't move my face. I didn't quickly start frowning. I'll even like play it towards the end. And then that's me right afterwards. I really go from smile to, okay, I'm done. But you want to hold that for as long as you comfortably can, because when you go to edit it, you need to give yourself space to actually cut what doesn't need to be there. When you go to actually cut what doesn't need to be there, I like to land right at the very end where I am. If you have headphones, you will be in luck here, because I'm trying to find where the last word ended, so I don't have that random like space right here where I'm doing nothing. What I end up doing is listening. I turn the headphones up very, very high, and I don't even look at the screen. I keep my finger on the space bar, because the space bar typically is what will play and pause your video. And as soon as I hear myself end, I press the space bar, because that's where you're going to want to actually cut. So right now, for example, I don't know if you all will be able to hear this. time, if I was editing this is like what I would do.
This LED glow.
Just like that. I don't even look at the screen, none of that. And if I feel like I didn't cut it in the right part, I just do that over and over again. If you're looking at it, you're anticipating it. So that's why I don't look when I'm cutting or slicing up my clips. I look away, I wait for the ending to happen, and then that's where I cut. So from here, I would get rid of everything that's over to the right. Now, because we at this point have the video clip, and that's great, we then want to start to edit the audio. You can edit your audio at the very end, which is what I'd recommend. Because we already have this clip here, I'm not going to go back and edit it later. But in CapCut, if you don't have the world's best microphone, that is actually okay, because in their audio section, you can come in and increase the sound of the audio. You can enhance the voice as well. You can add filters as well. And I'll show you the ones that I personally use. But first and foremost, you want to extract the audio. You want to get the audio on its own track. So with CapCut, you would right click and then you would extract audio. And now you see it's on its own track. It's separate from the actual video itself. So if I were to just like get rid of the sound for a moment, I don't hear anything. So that's, you want to just separate it in that manner. Now you'll also notice this is like, I don't know if this is the same clip. I think it's the same clip. Yeah, it's the same exact clip, but you'll notice the audio for that version has higher points, and it also has a couple different words. It says on here like voice filters, fuller voice. That's because that audio has already been edited. What I do to edit that audio in CapCut, I will increase the volume itself. 7 to 8 decibels is really great for my microphone. So you can either click the little tick marks or you can just type in whatever. So I'll bring it up to 7. And then I like to enhance the voice. I think, in my opinion, it does make the voice sound better. If you ever aren't sure, I would say test with the same clip to see what you like most. When you do enhance audio in CapCut, it takes a little moment, but it'll count up to let you know how much of it's complete. You'll see also in CapCut, there's these little like jewel icons that indicates that it's a paid feature. So this is why I pay for CapCut, because I get features like this. Premiere Pro has things you can use to enhance your audio. I personally do not think that it sounds that good. So I found CapCut to be better in that respect, and it's cheaper. And then from a voice changer perspective, this is where your filters come into play. And they have a good amount. There's various different ones depending on what you want your voice to sound like. You can get real creative and do some other stuff. I personally only use Fuller Voice. Fuller Voice is what's going to give you that like good podcast voice. Not to be confused with their podcast voice filter. They do have one on here. I don't think it gives podcast voice. I would say use Fuller Voice because that's what makes the voice sound very grounded. The microphone plays a really big role in this. How much space you have or how much open, empty space you have will make a really big difference in this too. So you might not need to do audio edits at all. There are other tools that are out here for editing audio. Like I said, though, I edit all my audio at the end of when I'm editing, but since we were doing this first one clip, that's why I'm showing it. Now, the next thing that you can do to make things interesting, because as lovely as it is to see my face, like I'll play the clip. Again, I don't know if you all can hear when this plays, but I'll play the clip and then I'll tell you what's missing from it.
You'll never guess what's making this LED glow.
Now, I look happy, I look engaging, I pointed at the thing, but again, earlier I mentioned we want to capture the viewer. We want to give them a reason to like to want to like stay focused on what's happening. This is where special effects comes into play, and you want to be very mindful with the special effects that you use. I am consistent with using pointers and sound effects as well. CapCut has a variety of what they call stickers, and you can search for the ones that you want. If there's certain ones you're always using, you want to click the little star icon to favorite them so you can always use them, and you can find them in the yours section and the favorites. Otherwise, you'll just search every time you want one. And so when I add in things like pointers, I put them where I am mentioning, hey, I want you to look at something. And I believe in this one, it says how to make or what's making this LED glow on the this is when I have the sticker pop up. It makes no sense to have it at the very beginning because like I haven't mentioned it yet. So you want to put it wherever you say, like I would say this. So if I listen to this one,
You'll never guess what's making this
right here, right when I'm saying this, that's when I would come in and I would drag the sticker. And you can shorten how long it's on there. And then I like to add sound effect as well, because not only do you hear me talking, I'm also giving you another audio clue that something interesting is happening. In CapCut, they have the audio section, they have music, but they also have sound effects. So if you are in the sound effects section, that's where you can find all the sound effects. Again, if you find one that you always use, you'll want to favorite it. You can find those in yours, and then favorites, and then sound effects. And these are the consistent ones I always use in my videos. I don't venture outside my neighborhood for those. These are the only ones that I find myself using. So with that said, find the one that you want. Start it where it makes sense. For me, I wanted this cute sparkly sound to play as soon as the arrow arrives. So now when I go to play this,
You'll never guess what's making this LED glow.
and even there, I might adjust when the sound comes in a little bit too. Also, with your sound effects, you want to make sure it's set at the right volume. Sometimes it's okay for the sound effect to be louder than the voice, but more often it should be slightly lower than the voice. It should sit like right under whatever is being said. So that's also just something to keep in mind. But like right off the bat, that's how I go and edit clips. Now, the flow that I actually will do, because all the special effects, like the stickers, the audio, the enhancing the volume, the voice, audio tracks, I actually do all that later. The first thing I do when I bring in my audio clips into CapCut is I put all the videos on the timeline, and then I edit everything down so that way the only thing that hangs around is going to be the video that like what remains. That helps me check that I'm in the time frame that I want my video to be in. And that also lets me know that once the clips have been edited, I can move on to all the other stuff. The special effects takes me very little time to add. So that's why I get all the video clips in right. So I do have a confirmation in the chat that you could hear, so great. And then another question, how do you work around hooks for your video? Thank you. So hooks for my video, depends on what the video is about. If the purpose of the video is to like entertain, I like to show the thing that's the outcome first. And ideally it's something that's visual. So in this one, the only thing I would say I regret is that you can't really see the LED glowing in here. What I would probably have done if I was going back and re-recording this before I had made it live, I probably would have scaled on here a bit more and made it so that way when I say this LED glow, I would have probably zoomed right in on that part so that way you can see that. For my Instagram videos, I'll take you over to Instagram and show you what I do there. Let's go to Instagram. All right, so when here, I did a soft circuit videos that for whatever reason is like, it's doing well. I didn't realize people like wearables that much. When I go to play this, what you'll see is that I show you the thing first. So here, now
LED circuits, they're absolutely my latest favorite thing to create.
Okay, Instagram apparently doesn't play the volume as soon as you start it. Let me see if I can find a way to.
Know that you can create soft LED circuits. They're absolutely my.
So
I am so happy
for you to have seen, as best as I can show you, is that the video opens with me showing you the thing itself. Showing you the thing's the hook, asking a question is also the hook. And in addition to that, oh, what am I doing? I have this saved on my computer. Let me find the file itself and then I'll play it that way because Instagram is not being friends with us right now. So one moment while I switch to that. But for your hooks, it always is going to depend on what the video is about. And so because um, that particular video was showing you something like cool that I made, and it's kind of like slight low key tutorial.
Did you know
I
that you can create soft?
start off with that question, and I like big words. So I'm going to play it now for you. Okay, here we go.
Did you know that you can create soft LED circuits? They're absolutely my latest favorite thing to create.
So, as you hopefully saw in the beginning, I showed a thing. So, visually, we have a visual hook. And I added another visual hook, which is this text that pops up as well. So, I don't put the full title of what the video is about there because no one's reading that. I'm gonna just be honest with you, no one's reading that. What people will see though are two words that might be of interest to whatever their thing is. They're going to see soft circuits and they're going to go, oh, that's me. This might be something I'm interested in. So you can start by adding some text there for your visual hook, as if you're doing a visual hook. If you're not doing a visual hook with like B-roll, because this would be considered a B-roll visual hook with a question, you can also do like a talking head visual hook. I don't know if do I have any? That's a good question. I think usually the ones on LinkedIn that I do, let me look really quick for you all. I think some of the ones, I might have some on LinkedIn that were more so talking head visual hooks without me needing to do anything. And then I have one more good example to show you in just a second. So for, let me see. Okay, yeah. So I did another one recently on LinkedIn where it's like me as the hopeful hook. And this is talking about creating creative presentations with GitHub Copilot and Impeccable. So I'll go ahead and play this.
You know how they say inspiration can strike at any moment?
No volume.
It was me at 7:18 a.m. the Thursday
So let me find it another way. It's fun figuring out what does and does not work. Let me grab that file. This one is AI for Makers. Okay.
You know how they say inspiration.
Why is there no volume? That's interesting. For whatever reason, I can't hear anything when I play that one video.
You know how they say inspiration can strike at any moment?
Okay.
Well, that was
Not
me
sure
at
what
7:18 a.m. the
happened to
Thursday before my
that.
Render ATL session. Last week, I delivered my AI
But
for
this
Makers Who
video
Aren't
is
Engineers
also
session at Render
on
ATL, but check this out.
LinkedIn, and not sure what the issue there could be. Let me check some stuff, everyone. So interesting. If anyone has stopped being able to hear me, do let me know, because I am not picking up
Didn't
any
use
audio
slides.
on my
I've been a
end
fan of the Prezi style of
right
presentations for
now.
years, and I wanted to know if
But
it was
let me see
possible
if
to
CapCut
replicate
making
something
this
like that, but with the
LED
help
glow.
of GitHub Copilot.
Yeah, I
Turns out
lost
it was
all
possible.
audio
With the
on
help
my
of GitHub
side.
Copilot and the Impeccable skill,
Let me see if
I was
it's
able to
me.
create an interactive presentation that also doubled as an interactive web experience for attendees. Using JavaScript, I was able to create a digital version of my workbench, complete with both electronic tools and components. I let the objects on the desk guide the themes of the talk. So for example, when I spoke about troubleshooting, I associated that with a multimeter. I also added some animations to avoid keeping things stale and to add a little bit of whimsy to the presentation. Now here's the part that I love most. The experience has two modes, present and explore. So when I was delivering the session, I was in present mode, but if you switch over to explore mode, you can click on any of the objects to learn more about them. For example, this breadboard. You can check out the experience because I still have it up. Go to makers.prettywiredlabs.com. Anyways, I'm always looking for fun ways to deliver tech content, and I encourage you to dig deep into your imagination and see what's possible with GitHub Copilot.
Battery 60%. Connected to GLANDOROUS PC. Connected to GLANDOROUS PC.
Okay. Not sure what's happening with the audio, but if for whatever reason audio cut out, just let me know. The point that I was trying to make, though, is that if you just do a visual hook with a talking head, you can definitely do that.
You know how they say inspiration
but
can
happening that people are just interested to like, okay, thank you for confirming you can hear me. It just needs to be interesting enough to know that when you come on camera, okay, good, you're hearing it. So you must be hearing what I'm playing. So I'm going to pretend that you can hear this. But when I
You know
come
how
in
they
on
say
this
inspiration can
video,
strike at any moment? Well, that was me
I
at
just have a lot.
7:19
I'm
a.m.
moving.
the
I'm
Thursday before my
excited.
render
I
ATL
don't look
session.
like I'm
Last
upset
week,
with the
I did.
world. So you want to have that bring in that personality to make people want to go, oh, what is she talking about? Because if I open up the video and I was just like, what did I even say in this one? I said,
You know how they say
you know how they
inspiration can
say
strike at any moment?
So if I open up and I said just like this, you know how they say inspiration can strike at any moment? Like that's boring. You want to have something to it. You want to add some personality. You can rehearse yourself doing your intro over and over again. So sometimes I'll do that. Sometimes I'll have in my head the way I want to come in and say something. So for this one, I'll know I need to go like, you know how they say inspiration can strike at any moment? People will see the movement. When videos are playing on LinkedIn, for example, and the audio is not on, all they can see is the person or what's on screen. Give them a reason to like want to stop. That's why I'm going my hands like this. I move in my videos for that reason. So it's like, hey, look at me. I'm doing something. Come stop and like turn the audio up. So when you're doing your hooks, make the intro seem exciting, whether that's with B-roll or whether that's with talking head. You can start by asking a question. You can start by saying a hot take. You can start by just saying something interesting. Just don't start with saying, today we're going to learn about how to create a circuit. It's not going to be engaging from a hook perspective. Now, if you're doing a video series on like a tutorial series on how to do something, that's where I think that can be more appropriate. Not to call it dry in a bad way, but that more like dry intro has value on those sort of videos. But for anything that's more where you are, if it's like short form and you're trying to hook people, it needs to be an engaging hook. Sorry, there's like no way around it. It has to be engaging. Because think about yourself. That's actually like my North Star for when I'm doing content. I like to think, would I actually watch something? Someone is saying my mic is not working. I have a voice echo on YouTube, but over on LinkedIn things seem to be fine. So I'm going to assume I'm okay. But in any case, I forgot the point that I was making. But all that's just to say, having more of the dry intro has a place in time, but if you're doing short form content, you want something that's engaging. Oh, that's what it was. Consider how you consume content. Are you the type that stops at the dry intros? If not, then don't think anyone else would. You will want to have that interesting intro. Okay? Back to CapCut, because I'll just show one more segment of how I go about editing something. So we'll get rid of this because we know that first batch worked out well. And then what else? Okay, here we have B-roll. So when you're adding in B-roll and you're mixing it in with the voiceover, simplest way to put it, the video is the star, the voice sits under the video. There's no talking head here, which is fine. But when you have an instance where you are doing talking head and you have something else happening on the screen, like right here, I have this screen recording I did, for example. Notice I'm like here off to the right. In the past, I used to actually never do that. I would not actually show my face whenever I was showing the screen recorded parts of the videos. And it wasn't until most recently that I added it, because anything that's like my work videos, they all go on LinkedIn. I do that, one, so that way if you happen to catch the video at a random part, you actually have a face with the video, and the face is moving. I mentioned at hour one of the stream that if you stay stuck on a static screen for too long, it can get very boring for people. Their attention will drift to other things. By me still having my face on here, there's a showing of movement. So that's why I've added my face into these videos. In addition to that, you want to make sure you're not covering too many things if you are doing this overlay with your face. The way it works in CapCut, because right now these are separate clips. So I have one clip that's just that. Like, see how boring that would be if all you had was just to see that, especially if I'm talking for 30 seconds and this is all you see. I actually wouldn't even do that. I would break it up with the overlay mixed with probably the talking head, like full screen. But this other clip here is just me talking over to the side. But it wasn't always like this. So in CapCut, we can actually get rid of what's doing it, and it's called a mask. So if I make this back to, and this will be the last thing I'll show you in CapCut for today, because there's so much you can get into with CapCut. But why didn't this go over? So this is what that clip looks like. So again, we have that, and then we have this. Because I want to sit myself on top of there, I can bring that clip on top, but notice now I can't see that screen recording that I did. In CapCut, what you'll do is add a mask. A mask is not just a CapCut thing. It's in other video software as well. But I scale it down first to a size that I think I look appropriate. I then go to mask, I add the mask, and I create what's called the circle mask. Once you're in that circle mask, you can move the circle to scale it bigger or smaller. And as you can see here, it does have these little like things on here that you can drag. You drag it to wherever is appropriate. You can move it so that way you have the right thing in frame. And then when you go back to basic, you sit yourself wherever you want to go. And then you can still make it smaller if you decided that, oh, I'm a little too big, I'm covering stuff. And then there you have it. That's how I end up maintaining myself as an overlay in videos. And again, I do that just to keep the interest there, because as I'm talking, I'm moving. So it shows there's some movement happening. With that said, I mentioned if I was doing something on this screen, or I was on this topic alone for 30 seconds, which I also would not recommend doing, you want to break things up. But if I had to break it up a bit more, I have like the complete version of when I did the edits for this. So while I'm on the screen here, I then go to a full screen right after. So I'm not there too long. And I think like this clip is really only, let me see, speed. That clip's 7.9 seconds. So imagine if that was 30 seconds of doing nothing but just looking at the screen and not somebody there. So break that up a little bit. Show the screen, show yourself, go back to full if you need to. Immediately right after that, I have a clip where, things got moved around, but I have a clip where I'm showing VS Code. And so try to switch what you're showing on the screen as often as possible. That makes sense. In addition to that, if I get towards, that pretty much covers the way I would just honestly go about editing and approaching editing. There's so much to say about the editing process that I'm not going to be able to cram here like right now. But I will say it's a process that as the more you do it, the more comfortable you get doing it. I know in the chat, Rachel said it's hard to record the table/screen using your phone camera. That's why that device I had earlier that my phone sits on, I use it for that. This canvas thing here will hold the phone in place too. And that's how if I had to record my screen for anything. Otherwise, I just use whatever tool actually record the actual screen. So I'm not recording the screen with my phone. Now, to wrap up everything that you've done with your editing, you'll want to generate captions. And so when you go to generate the captions themselves, CapCut has a way for you to do it. I'm actually going to go back to home and we're going to pull up, we're going to delete this copy we made. We're going to duplicate that and open it back up. So this would be like the finished version of the video. This one already has captions in it, but I'll show you how I go about adding them again. So in CapCut, Premiere Pro has this too, so I'm not going to downplay it and pretend it doesn't. But in CapCut, you can click the captions button, and I would say do this last. Do this once you know that your video's done being edited. When you go to captions, you can click generate. This is a paid feature, so if you're contemplating whether you want to upgrade to a paid version, this is like another reason why I pay for it. When you click generate, it'll generate all the captions. Now here's the thing about caption generation. I don't care how long your video is, please go and look at the transcript, because AI is only as good as it's good. Like, that's the best way for me to put it, because sometimes it'll think you said something and it won't. It doesn't necessarily capitalize everything. So I promise whenever I have to do GitHub Copilot, it lowercases the H in GitHub. It calls Copilot Co, and then palette, P-A-L-E-T-T-E. A lot of that has to do with probably the way I'm pronouncing. But in any case, the worst thing you can do is generate captions and not check them, because your captions are literally going to be on the screen if you keep them on the screen like I do. Now, you don't have to include captions on the screen. The reason that I personally like putting captions on my screen is because, again, when people are scrolling and they find these videos, most likely the audio's off, but visually they can see stuff. The captions are going to be moving too. So again, tying back to making sure you're catching people's attention as best as you can. So with that said, the captions are always on my videos. You don't have to. If you're putting this video on somewhere like YouTube, you probably don't want to put the captions on it. That's burning the captions into the video. You probably don't want to burn the captions. What you can do instead is generate a caption file, and CapCut lets you do it. Premiere Pro does it. It's an SRT file. Other programs will let you do that, and that's what gets uploaded when you upload to YouTube. You can also upload those files to LinkedIn, so that way you can submit your own caption file or subtitles file versus what LinkedIn generates. YouTube will generate it for you. LinkedIn will also generate for you, but you're at the mercy of those two when it does those generations. So I like to do it in advance, and it just gives me another chance to go through and look at stuff. But if I see here, like right now, GitHub Copilot, like marketing would have a nightmare if I shipped something like this, because that's not what the product's called. So with the captions, once they've been generated, over in the settings, CapCut has a way for you to apply updates to all of the captions. And this is the very first thing I do. I use a template that I use in every video. So if you go to templates, you can find whichever type you like. I have my own favorites. This is the one that you likely see in all my videos. And if you come back to basic, you can change the font. And so I always use the same font for my videos for LinkedIn. It's called Genial. And you can search for that. And that changes the font. I keep my fonts consistent to develop consistency with people that are looking at my videos, okay? In addition to that, I would say the colors that you want to go with, choose something that you can be consistent with, because the less decisions you have to make while you're editing, the quicker you can edit. So for my background, I don't ever use blue, I use purple. Why purple? There's no reason why I use purple. I had just always seen people use purple at one point for their captions, so I started using purples for my captions, and that's what I stick with. So every video you see on LinkedIn literally looks like this. My Instagram videos literally look like this, because I use the same thing every single time. So if you save them as your favorites, you'll save yourself some time. Now, in addition to that, I will make them ever so slightly smaller. And then from there, I turn off the apply to all. The reason is that as you're going through and maybe you want to make edits just to one set of captions, maybe you want to expand the length of it, you turn off apply to all so you can make edits just to that one segment of captions. So that's why I do that. But if you're doing like a mass update to something, then apply it to all. when you go to edit the words, like right here, GitHub Copilot, CLI, that's where I would come in and update that. I hate that CapCut separates Copilot into two words, but over on the right is where you can actually come and make those updates. So I use a font that's all caps. That actually saves me time, so I don't have to go and fix every place where it made the H in GitHub lowercase. But I would come in and just update Copilot this way. Also in CapCut, if you just go to the captions tab, these are literally all your captions. And you can just go through the whole thing that gets generated and do all your updates that way as well. I switch between either doing them bit by bit or just doing it all at once. It just depends on how I feel when I wake up that day. And once you've done all your caption edits, there's some moments where you just flat out don't need the captions on the screen. So I don't know if I did that. I didn't do that for this video, but I have had videos where I have text real big on the screen and therefore I don't need the actual captions. So for example, if I were to go to my interactive presentations one, I think I did it for that one. Sorry, I have a message that just came through. Okay, so I think this one I did like big text at one point. I thought I did. Let me check. Yeah, so like right here in this video,
I didn't use slides.
where I had that pop up, I didn't use slides. I don't need the caption there. I'm literally saying the thing that the caption would say. So I would delete the caption that gets generated there and only just rely on the text that's like this. Now for editing something like this, I know I said the last thing was the last thing, but for editing something like this, where I have text that's like behind me, you see how the word didn't is behind me and the E and U's is behind me? You can do that in CapCut by duplicating whatever video clip it is. So that's why this clip is also this clip. But check this out. If I turn off this row, it's just me. I'm using one of their AI features, which is the background remover. And so it'll remove the background in its entirety. From there, you would then decide which layer the text goes on. So I have some of the words underneath me, and that's how they end up behind me. That's a crazy photo. And then I have some that's like on top of me instead. So that's how you can do that sort of feature. For text like the ones that popped up here, you can do those updates with your animation. So if you click on the text, go to animation, and then you can find the animation type that you want, and that's how you can apply that. For transitions in videos, I don't do a transition for every single video. A transition is when you have something like this that'll happen. 1 second.
I've been a fan.
See how it just quickly went to the next? I'm very strategic in where I put them. If I'm completely changing a topic, I'll use it because it's an indicator that's, hey, something has changed here, what we're talking about. I also typically add them at the beginning of my videos after I do the hook. And when I'm about to get into like what the video is fully about, I'll do a transition there. In CapCut, you can find those in the transitions area. This is a great picture. So in transitions, you would search for whichever one you want. Keeping in mind, this is available in other editing tools, so you can still do this elsewhere. I like to always use swipe left. The only thing I will say though is with my swipe left, I always reduce them down to 0.2 seconds, so it's very quick. The other thing I do, if I expand the timeline, is I add the audio to align with it. And usually, this one got started at the wrong place. I would usually start the sound just as the video is about to swipe. So for those who can probably still hear this, when I play it, the sound will play the same time that it goes.
Slides. I've been a fan.
So just like that, the sound would have played right there. I'm going to take y'all word for it that y'all can hear that. So in any case, those are the key things I do when I'm editing videos. And again, it takes me an hour to edit the videos themselves. In CapCut, you can add covers to your videos in the beginning. And so this section that's going to be on the left, it's very tiny, but that's where you can go in and you can add a cover. I create my covers in Canva. I actually have an entire project in Canva for all of my covers because you want to reduce the amount of decisions you have to make. If you're consistent with your cover types, then you should never have a question as to what cover should you use for your videos. So for example, this is where I have every cover for every video I have on LinkedIn. It's the same image every single time. I swap out with my face. I'm using Canva's background remover for it. I literally just take a screenshot of one of the clips of me in the video. I mentioned earlier that when you record something, hold the very last thing you do for a bit before you stop recording. This is another good reason why, because you can likely get a really good photo of you like doing a pose that you actually like. I then will upload that to Canva, bring that into here, replace it with whatever image was there. And as you can see, like, this is me then, this is me on that video, this is me here, this is me here, this is me here. So that's what makes it easier for me to do the covers. It creates consistency as well. And then when I go to actually fill out all the words on it, I just swap out to whatever the topic of it is. This cover is important because when you're posting somewhere like on a LinkedIn, for example, if you've never noticed, all of your videos on LinkedIn actually they show in the videos section. So here, for example, like I didn't do that same style video here because this is a copy of the one I did on Instagram, but all these have that same cover. I have not found how to update those covers once you post on LinkedIn. So do keep that in mind. So that's why I do it in advance. When you go to upload on LinkedIn, it'll ask you for the cover of the video as well. So that's where that comes into play. But in CapCut, you can attach it in the beginning. What's going to happen is that when the video first plays, that's the very first thing that's there for like a super hot quick second. And then it goes right into your video. When you're exporting in CapCut, I don't change anything in my settings. I make sure that it adds a video cover at the beginning. I choose the folder where I store all my videos. I give it a name like final, for example. Anything in the video settings, like I said, I don't change anything. I just keep everything at its default. I mentioned earlier you can export the captions and upload them to YouTube or LinkedIn. There's a caption section down here. If you check that box, the format's going to say SRT. That's the format you want it to be in. There's also a text file version, but you want the SRT. That'll also maintain the timing for your videos. So when you upload to a place like YouTube, it'll ask you, does your captions have timing? Yes, your captions have timing. That's what ensures that the caption aligns with the time in the video and what you're saying something. And then you'll click export from there. And it's very quick. Once you have that, then you're good to go and you can go and upload. The last thing I'll talk about will just be when you do your captions on LinkedIn, because that can also sometimes make or break whether people want to actually just like watch your video too. So if I go to, let me go to back on my LinkedIn, you can check this out. There is one of my featured videos, my robot dog pixel that I created. If you click on that one, you can see my caption for this. If you notice on LinkedIn, when you're scrolling through the feed, you're never really going to see anything beyond that first line. So that first line is going to have to like bring people in. So that's where like I would not do I created a robot dog. Well, then again, that might actually be interesting. But I probably wouldn't say like, if you take what I have here, so like right now mine says, I like GitHub Copilot vibe code with my robot dog, what could go wrong? That's intriguing because I have a couple of interesting things happening here. One, there's a whole robot and it's an actual dog robot. Two, it asks a question, what could go wrong? This is where really thinking about what it is that entices you comes into play. Because if something draws you in, that means it likely draws other people in as well. So I like to either lead with a question. I love to put an emoji because I love emojis. And here's the even more important part. I write my captions myself. So as we definitely know, platforms are cracking down on AI generated text. So, and people also just don't like AI generated text in general. Do your best to just write your own thing. If you don't feel it's strong enough, okay, sure, you can run it through whatever AI coding or AI assistant that you want for some polish of it. But I would definitely say try to write it on your own first, because now when I go to do my captions on LinkedIn, it's whatever comes to mind just before I post. I don't spend time in advance writing a whole bunch of captions for videos. I literally think of my caption just as soon as I'm about to upload it to LinkedIn. I leave it just as easy and simple as that. It takes time and practice. So the more videos that you do, the more that you will you'll develop a really strong I would say eye, but I guess a really strong eye for like how to write captions that's going to entice people. There was a question about what is the size format for the thumbnails on Canva. So these are let's see, it should tell me somewhere. Right now, this is a 1280 by 720. So that's the current size that I'm using on Canva. This will also suffice if you're, oh, hi, I see Sid Creates on YouTube, hello. But yeah, this format will suffice for your YouTube videos as well. Because actually, that's how this project got created in Canva, was for my YouTube videos. And then I just use the same thing for LinkedIn as well. Now you'll notice on LinkedIn that the videos are horizontal as well. So if I come down here, you'll see that they are horizontal. You can go either way. I think it's cool. You can go horizontal, you can go vertical. I called this horizontal, my bad, y'all. Vertical. So it's up to you, really. But more important is that you put a cover on your video, because you see how this video has no cover? So I'm at the mercy of just reading what the caption is, right? On LinkedIn, there are no video titles. So this is where the cover does double duty, because it keeps consistency, but it also lets people see what that video happens to be about as well. Again, as I mentioned earlier, we create videos for the viewer. Everything that we do is for the viewer. So anything that makes the watching and viewing experience, those words mean the same thing, but anything that makes the viewing experience easier for them, that is what I would always lean more towards. So I know we covered a lot in what has now been 2.5 hours. I thank you all for tuning into this. This live stream is going to be on my YouTube channel, so if you ever want to go back and replay it, you're more than welcome to check it out there. If you have any questions about just content creation workflow, especially the technical content creation workflow, please don't hesitate to reach out to me on LinkedIn or Instagram. And if there's any topic that most folks feel would be good to cover in another future live stream, I can definitely arrange some time to do that. I just figured having this ability to answer questions while I was explaining via a live stream was best. But if anyone would benefit from just either short form how-to videos that you can just go back and watch whenever, I can see where I have some time to do that. But for those who tuned in live, thank you. This was a labor of love on my end, because I redid my entire setup just so I can stream from this computer, and I'm quite proud that everything, with the exception of whatever happened to my volume at some point, worked out well. Definitely practice with the content creation. I'm going to tell you this right now because I'm a realist. You're not going to get it perfect on the first time if this is your first time creating content. You're going to have some flops as well. You might have something that goes viral on the first video that you do, and your second one might also go viral. But anticipate that point where something's going to flop. I have more flops than I would care to even tell you. But that's what helps you get better the more that you create content. So practice. experiment. That's another thing too. I think sometimes we fixate on trying to do things perfectly right the first time, that we end up putting way more stress on us than we need. But if you experiment with something new and it actually works out well, then maybe something's there. Try that a little bit more, possibly. There could be something there. And yeah, all right. I will let you all enjoy the rest of what I think is Wednesday, or is it Thursday? Oh my gosh, is it Thursday? Y'all, it's Thursday. I thought it was Wednesday. I'll let you enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Thanks for coming to hang out with me. Have fun on your content creation journey. And with that said, take care and bye.